Remedy came about from a handful of very kind of talented, ambitious young guys, most of whom had backgrounds in the demo scene and were very interested in computer graphics and audio and games in general, and wanted to make games professionally.
And that kind of background, being able to milk the early computers for performance and beautiful graphics, has clearly helped, and that was the foundation of the company.
In the beginning, Remedy was very much a garage band and was actually operating from the basement of the parents of one of the founding members.
It's one of those classical stories of a small team following their passion and their vision and being able to create something unique and cool.
This was the mid-90s, and it was still at that time possible for a handful of individuals to actually make a video game or a computer game by themselves, and a kind of a top-notch game at that. So it was an ambitious dream even then, but something that was within the reach. At the time, Death Rally was already running along, and I was studying the English language and literature at the university, and one of the guys at Remedy contacted me and asked me to write the texts for the game. Back then it was kind of a limited tool set. It was this and this many letters on 3 lines, and you need to do things within that scope. I knew I wanted to write professionally, but suddenly being able to kind of do a project like this, it was a very, very fun thing.
The guys were really following their heart and their passion. They wanted to create games and they wanted to get into the industry. So actually, I knew some of the people around the company, and when I first heard that there's actually a living to be made in games, I was really surprised myself. And this is back in '95 or so. I started hearing the stories of the guys going to trade shows, and actually they're being picked up by drivers and limousines, and that was surprising. What is this stuff? And I never could have fathomed that you could actually make a living in computer games, and much less be successful.
More than kind of a bunch of colleagues, it was more like a group of friends doing what they love. Back then we were all very young and kind of working at odd hours because it was possible, and there were things like mattresses under the desks for someone after they had worked as long as they could go. They could sleep a couple of hours and crawl out from under the table again and keep on working.
Death Rally was a 1996 game, so this is a top-down racer, addictive, fun, good gameplay. At that point in time, it was a fairly large game, but essentially around 12 people in the basement, all hot and kind of crammed together, and kind of bringing their own computers to work.
Death Rally back then was a hit, and we were definitely going to do other games. We knew that. There were a lot of different ideas and concepts for kind of different games floating around, and one of those was a very early draft of what then became Max Payne. I think that the early concept was called Dark Justice. When we started working on Max Payne, it was bit over 10 guys in the very beginning, and we did have a budget, but it was very, very limited, so we had to kind of get creative to achieve what we were aiming for. So this was still kind of a garage band dreaming up stuff. One of the good examples for how we needed to get creative was that for cinematics we didn't have the resources, and so we decided to use graphic novels to tell the story, and ended up using photos for the basis of those shots. And then we suddenly were in a situation that we need to cast all the characters in the game, and somehow it ended up being so that I was going to be Max Payne. Fast forward a couple of years later, and I'm seeing my face everywhere, kind of what was to be known as the constipated Crimis on the cover of the magazines, and the rest is history. With the rest of the cast, I just kind of went around friends and relatives and got them to play the parts. My mother ended up as the main villain, Nicole Horn, and my dad was the shady government official, and my brother was a gangster, and I even got the janitor of the apartment building I was staying at the time to play the Godfather. So it was good fun, really, really fun.
In 2001, Saku Lehtinen, our art director, and myself went down to London to do a demonstration of the game. Unfortunately, at that point in time, we couldn't really fly with proper airlines, so we had to fly with a budget airline, and we were hauling this big PC because no laptop would run the game at that point in time. And the computer got bashed off, and the graphics card fell off, and so forth. Unfortunately, we only realized this as we go into the big meeting in this executive area in downtown London. And I'm doing an impersonation to keep these people interested because we only have a limited time window there. So I'm virtually doing like sock puppets of what Max Payne is about and bullet time and so forth, and talking the spiel as Saku goes to work on the computer with his Leatherman. So he does a regular MacGyver on it and pulls it apart and reinstalls the graphics card. But you learn to appreciate the comforts that you have now, that you can actually live in a proper hotel, you can take proper flights as opposed to traveling on the tightest possible budget, carrying your own stuff through downtown London with a monitor on your back and so forth. The success of Max Payne, I think it took everybody by surprise. We knew that we had something good and something unique, but we had no idea how large Max Payne was going to be.
The huge success of what Max Payne became, it was really surreal. I have to say that to this day, it's a hard thing to understand that it really was such a big hit. And then after the first game, we were definitely kind of a real company at that time and knew that we had a secure future. And it was an obvious thing to work on the sequel. And for that, the schedule was much tighter. But the company was growing and we had more and more guys, over 20 at this point. And for Max Payne 2, the budget was already considerably higher. So with these kind of creative choices that we were forced to do with Max Payne 1, now we had an option to do them with actual professionals. So one area, for example, was the whole cast. We were able to get professional actors for all the roles. I guess that from Max Payne, we took three things that were what Remedy does well. And one of them is technology. And we have had our own tech in all of our games. So it was a clear thing that we would be doing a new game engine and all the tools that we would be building the game on. And it's a very important part of what Remedy is. The two other things are that we want to tell stories. We knew that whatever we would be doing next, we would want to have a strong main character and a deep story that would be driving the game. And the third thing, I guess, is cinematic action. We want to use kind of stylized way of showing action in a movie-like way.
We want to make sure that Alan Wake can live up to its full potential. When we initiated the project, we saw that it could be something unique, awesome, creative, and innovative, and actually pushes the envelope in games in general a bit. After all, the Remedy brand must stand for something. It stands for movie-like action, strong storytelling, beautiful characters, and it has a certain tone that you've come to expect, such as you would expect certain movie makers to make certain kinds of films and to reach to a certain quality. I think Remedy as a creative force must stand for something.
Well, Finland is the center of the universe, after all. But seriously, Remedy has its roots in the demo scene in the 80s and 90s. And Finland has really been a center for the demo scene. So it's kind of a logical combination. Even today, if you know an event called the Assembly, it's still the annual biggest demo scene event in the world. It still takes place in Helsinki every year. I think that has given us a good basis, because we can easily find people who have sort of trained in demo scene. They have written fast graphics code and they have created really great art and music and whatever. All basic skills for game development, really.
I think we're very lucky in Espoo and in Finland in terms of the circumstances that allow us to develop games. We have a very small nation, and we've always needed to look abroad when we're starting something. It's simply not feasible to create a game for the Finnish market. So instantly, you're born global as a company. I think we have a very good ecosystem in terms of a society. We have great education, great universities, awesome art schools. Even the basic stuff, such as a functioning legal system, a good social security network, all of these things help us to be entrepreneurial and to take those leaps. So there is a safety net if you do fail.
Finland is a relatively small country of about 5 million people, and that much people, you sort of almost know everybody or know somebody who can deliver exactly what you want. And in here we've tried to sort of gather the cherries from the pile, like pick them all around, the best talent we've found.
In addition to being able to pull the cream of the Finnish talent from the games industry, we've also had the benefit of being able to tap into international talent. All the time that I've worked here, we've always had folks from abroad, and today we're 10 different nationalities on the team.
We're doing a game for everybody around the world. I mean, it's an international product, and we want that to be reflected on the people who are working on it as well. So on purpose, we've hired a lot of different nationalities, but we also work with people all around the world.
I like it here a lot. It's cold right now, but the summer's beautiful. I'm not in a hurry to go back. I don't have any immediate plans. If I don't go back, then I'm fine with that.
Finland is I think very nice place because almost everybody is speaking English very good. So the language is not the problem. The one thing that might be a little weird in Finland are the ridiculous prices for alcohol. So if you're going for a beer, it costs a fortune compared to Germany.
One of the great things about working at Remedy is it's a very mature, seasoned team. That means that everyone's got a good work-life balance and they know how to maintain so that we don't go too crazy with late nights or anything like that. It's very, very balanced here.
We still have this small family vibe, and that's good for many reasons. Obviously, it's better for the communication. People know each other, and it's a nice place to work because you don't run into strange faces on the halls. But it's also good for innovation because the group is more tightly knit and working better together, and there's less of that trying to get the whole team moving. When you're smaller, you can be more agile and react to situations more, which is good for the game overall because then you can innovate more.
At Remedy we have a really tight team. It was like 25 people or something when I came here. Now it's 45. It's still very small in like international standards, but to me it's of course big because it's like doubled in size. But fortunately it's still intimate, and it's not like a factory, but it's like a good family of people.
Remedy is sort of a, you could say, crossroads where experts in technology, storytelling and art meet.
Sort of the heritage from the demo scene is the fact that code, art, music, everybody talks to each other all the time.
Everybody knows each other. It feels more like a family than a company sometimes.
I think one of the advantages that we have with the small team is that ideas flow a lot around the company, and many people can have different ideas, and everybody is involved at some level on the design side, and there's lots of talking going around, and I like the fact that people easily talk about design and what we should do and what's the direction that we should take.
This is a collaborative effort, and being a small team, it really allows us to communicate with one another. So Sam can go over to Mixer and have a chat about a gameplay element that really works with the story, and on the flip side, Sako can talk to Sam about some visual thing that he's kind of foreseeing in the story. It works really well. Being in a small office in a small team, we really get that communication flow working really well.
The older guys here, they teach you very soon that the Remedy logo on top of the package is like a seal of quality, and you have to meet that in everything that you do.
The best thing about working for Remedy is that you know that they're not going to put out a game until it's great, and you will be proud of what you work on, and it's not going to get out the door before it hits that point.
There's a clear and distinctive Remedy culture, and we want to create something that's larger than a single game, something that becomes almost a part of popular culture in general, and it can cross from one game to the next or different media, whether it's TV or film or books and so forth, and that's what we want to establish. We want to tell stories. I think fundamentally we're storytellers. A few thousand years ago, you could have some people sitting around a fire and they'd all come to listen to a good storyteller. And this person would relate the emotion and the suspense to these people, and they'd be intrigued by it. I think that's what we're really doing. We're just doing it in people's living rooms with modern technology. That's essentially what we are.
Every Friday we have a Friday social, we have a get together, we'll check out the latest builds with a team, drink a few beers, and then every 6 weeks we also have a milestone review where we drink a few beers, have some nice food, and get together and see who falls on their face first.
We moved to this building in late 2004. We really wanted our own back cave, our own defined space, which we owned and controlled, or well, actually we rented, but we control this area. And we wanted to build it into our next gen office, if you will. This space we really wanted functional and comfortable. It's not about flash or things like that, but we want to have an office that serves the team well and is a creative space that allows us to work efficiently. We do have some comforts. For example, being in Finland, we do have the saunas and so forth, and those are terribly handy for, you know, team get-togethers, or also if you're mountain biking to work or running during the lunch hour or coming to work. We also have our dedicated motion capture area for quick iterations, a kitchen, and the requirement of 2 dishwashers so that we'd always have fresh cups of coffee. Coffee keeps the development flowing.
A lot of the people have been here for many years and worked together for many years, so it's very important part of what Remedy games are, who we are as people and how we work together, because making video games, more than anything, it's a team effort.
Really, it's about your work and being able to do something that's cool, that you enjoy and the audience enjoys. And for us, that's always been the factor in our culture and what drives us. I mean, we want to entertain the most amount of people in the best possible way.